Now in the first section of travelling wave tube, we have seen what is a travelling wave tube. It is another O-type microwave amplifier, but unlike klystron amplifier, it has got some differences. So in our first part, we have seen about the basic working principle of travelling wave tube, its difference with the klystron amplifier, and the constructional features. That is, the significance of each and every component in a travelling wave tube was stated. Now we will go on to state the significance of a slow wave structure which is used in travelling wave tube. Here we are going to speak on about the helical wave structure which is used inside the tube, and we will also state about the amplification process undergoing in a travelling wave tube. That is how the RF input which is provided is going to be amplified and taken. So in this lecture, we will see both about the slow wave structure and the amplification process in travelling wave tube. Now in this section, we will see about the slow wave structures. We have seen that in the travelling wave tube, we have used a helical slow wave structure. What is the need of actually incorporating this slow wave structure in our travelling wave tube? When the operating frequency is increased, both the inductance and the capacitance in the resonating circuit must be decreased in order to maintain resonance at the operating frequency. That is, these principles we have already seen in the case of cavity resonator. So, we cannot have an ordinary resonator to generate such a large output. Also, there is limitation of the gain bandwidth product. So, we are going to incorporate a slow wave structure for producing large gain over a wide bandwidth. That is, this slow wave structure is a non-resonating structure. They are special circuits which are used in the microwave tubes so as to reduce the wave velocity in a certain direction so that the electron beam and the signal wave can interact. For a longer period of time, the electron beam and the RF signal is interacting, so we get a large amplified output. Usually, the phase velocity of wave in ordinary waveguide will be almost equal to that of the velocity of light or greater than the velocity of the light in vacuum. But when we are introducing the slow wave structure, the velocity of the wave in the waveguide is going to get reduced. It becomes lesser than the velocity of the light in vacuum. So basically the slow wave structure is incorporated to reduce the phase velocity of the microwave signal so that we can have more interaction of the microwave signal and electron beam for signal amplification. We can have several types of slow wave structure, but the essential property is that it should have property of periodicity in the axial direction. So there are many examples of slow wave structure. In our travelling wave tube, we have used a helical structure. The phase velocity of some spatial harmonics in the axial direction can be obtained by Fourier analysis of the waveguide field. It may be smaller than the velocity of the light. Usually, it travels with the velocity of light or greater than the velocity of light in a waveguide. But in case when we are incorporating a slow wave structure and analyzing the waveguide, we find that the phase velocity is smaller than the velocity of the light. In helical slow wave structure as shown, when we are having a translation back or forth, say through a distance of one pitch, again it results in an identical structure. So we are having here a periodicity in the axial direction. Here P here is the pitch which is same as that of the period. Thus the period in the case of a helical structure is its pitch. So these are the several examples of the slow wave structure. In our travelling wave tube, we have used a helical line. So all these slow wave structure, they have the property of periodicity in the axial direction. We can incorporate any of these slow wave structure for effective interaction of the RF waves with the electron beam. Now in the case of slow wave structure, mainly we ensure a large path length for an electromagnetic wave to travel from one point to another as compared to the electron beam path, that is the shortest path. That is, electron beam is traveling only in a straight path, whereas the incorporation of a helical slow wave structure in the tube causes the electromagnetic wave to travel with a greater time. So increased time leads to reduced velocity. So the time taken to travel through the helical path is more even though the displacement is going to be same. Okay, so suppose we can move at a distance, say this is the shortest distance d, which is a straight path. Again we can move this through a helical structure also. Even though the displacement is the same, the time taken to move through this helical path is going to be more. So what happens when the time increases? Finally the velocity will be reduced. So such a way we are going to reduce the velocity of the electromagnetic wave. So that is, there is maximum interaction is taking place between the electromagnetic wave and the electrons. So we are consuming that the distance between the two turns of the helix is p. Okay, this is the distance p, that is the axial length, and the diameter of the turns is d. Now to find the path length which is travelled by the electromagnetic wave, we can apply the Pythagoras theorem. So this is the axial distance of p and this is the d, that is the diameter of the turn. So we can find the path length by using the Pythagoras theorem. It will be root of p square plus pi d the whole square. Now the ratio of phase velocity for a EM wave traveling along the helix and phase velocity of a EM wave which is traveling directly in the straight path will be the reverse ratio of their path length. So for the electromagnetic wave which is traveling in a straight path, that is the straight path, the path length will be p. And for an electromagnetic wave which is traveling along the helical path, okay, that is we have seen for a helical path, what will be the path length? It will be given by the Pythagoras theorem, that is root of p square plus pi d square for a axial movement of p, that is for a helical movement. So the ratio Vp by C can be expressed as P by root of P square plus pi d square. That is, if the electromagnetic wave is traveling along a straight path, it will be traveling obviously with the velocity of light is equal to C, and Vp is the phase velocity of an electromagnetic wave traveling along the helix. So the ratio Vp by C will be inversely proportional to that of the path length. So we can get an expression for Vp as such. So this is how the phase velocity of the electromagnetic wave is reduced from the velocity of the light to less than the velocity of light. So depending on our requirement of phase velocity, we can change the parameters, that is either the diameter d of the helix or p, the distance between the turns. So by varying these two parameters, we can change the phase velocity of electromagnetic wave according to our requirement. So this concept is used in slow wave structure helix traveling tube. Now this is a ratio for Vp to C. For a very small pitch angle, the phase velocity along the coil in free space can be approximately represented as such, that is Vp is approximately equal to Pc by pi d, that is for a very small pitch angle, which is also equal to omega by beta. So the helix omega beta diagram is useful in designing a helix low wave structure. So depending upon our requirement, we could adjust the values of P or D and adjust the velocity of a electromagnetic wave, and we can consider this omega beta graph for designing of a helical slow wave structure. Here V, the velocity or the C is given by omega by beta, and the group velocity VGR, that is d omega by d beta, it is nothing but the slope of the curve. For a very small pitch angle, we can approximate Vp to be Pc by pi d. Now at this point, we are going to state about the electric field which is occurring in the slow wave structure. Now the RF input which we are applying at the input of a structure is going to induce a axial electric field. This axial electric field which is induced is actually periodic. So since being periodic, it can be represented by Fourier series, that is by using sum of waves, each of which is going to have the same frequency but with different phase velocity. This harmonics is called as space harmonics. So we know that there is an electron beam interaction and a RF field interaction. So both have to interact together over the length of the tube to get the signal amplified. So if the phase velocity of the RF field is going to match with the phase velocity of electron beam, then there will be exchange of energy. According to Flockett's theorem in slow wave structures, the electric field in the adjacent cell is represented by a complex constant. So following this theorem, we are going to represent the electric field in a slow wave structure. Now according to Flockett, the electric field in adjacent cell is represented by complex constant. Here the adjacent cell distance we are going to consider as L. L is same as that of the pitch in the case of our helical slow wave structure. So continuing with the Flockett's theory, in a slow wave structure, we can represent the electric field distribution in the adjacent cell by a complex constant. So the electric field, I am writing it as E of x, y, z plus L, where z plus L represents the distance to the adjacent cell in case of a slow wave structure. L is the distance between the adjacent cells. So that can be represented as E of xyz into e raised to minus of j beta naught of L. So here the electric field in the adjacent cell, the distance given by z plus L, is given as a function of electric field distribution into multiplied by a complex constant. So in this case our complex constant is e raised to minus of j beta naught of L. Beta naught, we know it is the phase constant of the wave. In our case, that is we are having a slow wave structure, the beta naught represents the phase constant of average electron velocity. Now from the theory of Fourier series, we know that any function which is continuous or periodic could be expanded as a sum of Fourier series. So from this particular Flockett's theory, I can represent the electric field E of xyz into a sum of Fourier series. So I can write E of xyz as sigma n varying from minus infinity to plus infinity En e raised to minus of jn omega 0 of z. Now we are always considering the direction to be in the positive z, and omega naught, we know it is 2 pi by t. Here our time period is capital L. Okay, so we can write the expression as such. Again we can substitute for the previous expression. E of xyz could be replaced with this Fourier series. So this first expression is going to become as such. So sigma n varying from minus infinity to plus infinity, En e raised to minus of jn. Instead of omega naught, we can represent it as 2 pi by L, where L is our period, into z e raised to minus of j beta naught of z. Beta naught here represents the phase constant and z is the axis, direction of propagation. So we can write the equation for the electric field E of xyz as such. So continuing from the previous expression, instead of beta naught plus 2 pi n by L, we can generalize it as beta n, that is a phase constant of nth modes. Okay, so now I have represented the electric field distribution in the helical slow wave structure as a sum of Fourier series. Okay, so with the help of the Flockett's theorem and by using Fourier series expansion, finally we have come to a generalized expression for representing the electric field in a slow wave structure. Now by looking at this expression, when we are finally expanding it, we could find that it is a infinite series of waves, but each is going to have different phase constant, that is beta. Okay, we know that the phase velocity is going to depend on beta. Everybody is familiar with what is phase velocity. V is given by omega by beta. So obviously we understand that the field in the periodic structure is expanded as an infinite series of waves all at same frequency. Frequencies are not varying here, it is independent, but with different phase velocity. Since beta, our phase constant, is changing, phase velocity is different for each of them. Okay, so the conclusion is the field is expanded as infinite series with same frequency but with different phase velocity. So the phase velocity is going to vary throughout the tube. Also, we have seen in the slow wave structure how the velocity is getting reduced in a slow wave structure. It is getting reduced than the velocity of light. So from this we come to the conclusion that for a microwave of suitable harmonic component, it is possible to have a phase velocity lesser than the velocity of light. The conclusion here is that we are slowing down the RF field so that the electron beam and the RF field will interact maximum. There is maximum chance for the interaction for the amplification of the signal to take place. That is the conclusion. So interaction between the electrons and microwave signals are possible and thus amplification take place. So now I hope you have understood what is the significance of using a slow wave structure. In simple words, it is to reduce the velocity of the RF wave so as to interact with the electron beam for maximum possible amplification. And also we have seen how we have expressed our electric field in a slow wave structure. Now we have an idea of how the amplification is occurring in traveling wave tube. That is, obviously it is by the interaction of both the electron beam and the RF field. When a signal voltage is coupled onto the helix, that is, we are giving a RF input onto the helix, we know a axial electric field is induced. This axial electric field will exert a force on the electron as a result of the basic relations, that is F is equal to minus EE or E is equal to minus del V. We know that there is an induction of an axial electric field and the RF field and the electron beam is going to interact over the whole the length of the slow wave structure. Now this is a schematic representation of the interaction between electron beam and electric field. Now this is the axial electric field induced and this is the electron beam. Now there is a retarding field and an accelerating field shown. So those electron beam which is entering at the 0 point of the helical wave structure, they are not subjected to any type of velocity modulation or their velocity remains unchanged. Now those electrons which is entering here at the retarding field, here the retarding field is indicating that the signal is going from positive to negative. So during this half cycle it is indicating a retarding field and at this point electrons are going to suffer a retarding force. The retarding force direction is shown as such. So this half is indicated to be retarding field and a retarding force is acting on the electron as such. And during this half cycle the signal is going from say negative to positive, so it is an accelerating field and the force which the electron experiences here is an accelerating force as represented by this particular arrow. So the electrons which is coming in the helical wave, those undergoing at the 0 point is not subjected to any type of velocity modulation and those electrons which is coming under the retarding field, they will be retarded and those coming in the accelerating field, they will be more accelerated. Now we have stated in the beginning we are always going to maintain the DC velocity of electron greater than the axial velocity. So more electrons will encounter the retarding field than the accelerating field. So the electrons, they will be more on this retarding field rather than this accelerating field. So when the electrons are more subjected to this retarding field, retarding force acts on them and the electrons will be forced to give its kinetic energy to the field on the tube. So at the end we get an amplified signal. So the electrons are forced to give its energy to the slow wave structure. The interaction between the RF field and the electron beam takes place maximum and at the end we get an amplified signal. So when asked to explain about the amplification process, explain with this particular figure which is showing the interaction between the electron beam and electric field and state that the electrons will be more in the retarding field and they will be transferring the energy to the field and thus the amplification of the signal will take place. Now in the last slide we have seen the schematic diagram of the interaction between the electric field and electron beam. Now mathematically in the form of equation, we can establish a relationship between the electric field and velocity of electron. So for that, the motion of electrons in traveling wave tube can be quantitatively analyzed in terms of axial electric field. We are assuming that the wave, RF wave, is propagating in the Z direction, positive Z direction. The equation of motion of electron is given by Ez is equal to E1 sine of omega t minus beta p Z. Now we have shown schematically about the diagram of the electron motion. Now this electric field is represented as such. Here we have to know what are each terms. E1 here is the magnitude of the electric field in the Z direction. Say at time t is equal to t0 and at Z is equal to 0, that at the initial position or at the initial time our electric field is assumed to be maximum. That is, E1 here represents the maximum electric field. We know what is beta p. It is a phase constant of our microwave. It is also can be represented as omega by Vp, where Vp is the axial phase velocity of the wave. Now, the force which is acting could be represented as this particular equation, which is the first equation we are writing here. That is, here force mass into acceleration can be represented by dv by dt. So m into dv by dt is equal to, force can also be expressed as minus of E into E. So minus of E, our electron, into the electric field. The electric field we have substituted to be E1 sine of omega t minus beta p Z. Now by assuming that the velocity of the electron is V0 plus Ve cos of omega et plus theta e. That is, we are having a electron beam interaction inside the tube. So the initial DC velocity we are assuming it to be V0, small v0, that is a DC electron velocity, and the other fluctuation as a cosine component of the wave. So we have expressed our electric field interaction of the RF with the sine component, and now we are assuming the velocity of the electron to be into two parts, that is, one with the DC electron velocity and another one with the cosine component of the wave, where Ve represents the velocity fluctuation in the modulated electron beam, that is Ve as written here, and omega is the angular fluctuations of the electron beam, angular frequency of velocity fluctuation, and theta e represents the phase angle of the fluctuation. So we can differentiate this expression dv by dt and get the second equation. Now when we are substituting this second equation in the first equation, that is our force equation, instead of m into dv by dt, we could substitute for dv by dt from this second equation in our first one and get the third equation. So m into our dv by dt substituted is equal to minus of E we get as such. So this is our third equation. Now the distance is traveled by the electron. We are assuming the direction of propagation to be in the positive Z. So distance, we know it could be expressed as velocity into time. So the distance traveled by the electron is now expressed as Z is equal to V0 into t minus t0. Now the velocity V, the velocity modulated electron beam, could be approximated to that of the DC velocity of the electron for interaction to take place. So instead of V, we can write it as small v0 into the time is taken as total time t minus the initial time t0. So in the third equation, instead of Z, we could write it as velocity into time. That is, substituting 4 in 3, we get the expression as such. Instead of Z, I have replaced as V0 into t minus t0. So comparing these LHS and RHS, we could write the expression for VE, omega E and theta E as such. That is the velocity fluctuation of the electron VE, the angular frequency fluctuation of the electron omega E, and the phase fluctuation of the electron theta E as such. So by comparing LHS and RHS, we got the expression as such, and from this we can draw an inference. That is, it could be seen that the magnitude of the velocity fluctuation of the electron beam is directly proportional to magnitude of axial electric field. So we can see VE is directly proportional to E1. That is, the velocity fluctuation directly proportional to the magnitude of the axial electric field. And also the angular velocity omega E is proportional to the difference between the axial velocity and the DC velocity. So now we have understood about the significance of slow wave structures, the amplification occurring in the traveling wave tube, and finally we have established that the fluctuation of the electron beam in the traveling wave tube is approximately proportional to the magnitude of the axial electric field.